With Elaine Stein, Carter Clues, we welcome Jim Fox and Isaiah Fletcher on Channel 13 Square Off, coming up right after the Pick 4. Join us.
Our National Guard has a proud tradition. They're all volunteers, all citizen soldiers. They're neighbors helping neighbors through state emergencies, natural disasters, and military conflicts for 350 years. The Guard is an American tradition, and today that tradition is being carried on by the men and women of the Army and Air National Guard. Recently, volunteers from the National Guard assisted an organization which I'm committed to called LIFE, which means love is feeding everyone. Guard members collected 5.5 tons of food to help feed the needy. Now, that's what I call neighbors helping neighbors, right, fellas?
That's right.
You bet. You can be part of this American tradition by joining the Army and Air National Guard. And by joining, you'll be eligible for cash bonuses and college tuition assistance. And of course, the Guard will pay you while you learn a skill. For more details, call your local Guard unit and tell them Dennis Weaver sent you.
Well, you know, sometimes there's a feeling that it's not gonna go your way. But you know, when it's right for you, someone else might be pulling you through. Now you know.
Makeup of a Killer, Monday at 4.
Welcome back for tonight's Pick 4 drawing. Our machines are lined up in a randomly selected order, and the game starts by mixing the balls in the first machine. The balls in the second machine are mixed. Next, the balls in the third machine. And now the last machine. Karen Stewart from Timonium will draw tonight's Pick 4 number. Tonight's Pick 4 lottery official is Anise Campbell. And now tonight's first digit is drawn. And the first digit is a 5. Now the second digit is drawn. Second digit is an 8. Now tonight's third digit is drawn. The third digit is a 4, and now the fourth and final digit is drawn. And the fourth digit is a 2. That makes a winning Pick 4 number for tonight, 5842. That's 5842. This week's jackpot, $2.4 million for Lotto. Stay tuned for Square Off.
Okay. Tonight on Square Off, we talk about the crash of the DC-8 that took the lives of almost 250 American servicemen and women. And we ask the question on Square Off, do you feel the United States treats its enlisted men and women as second-class citizens? Elaine Stein.
Well, you have the example in a chartered airplane that had a bad reputation. I mean, I think it's interesting because you would never find President Reagan or any members of the cabinet or Senate on those kind of airplanes.
Jim Fox.
I agree. We treat the military personnel as second-class citizens, and add to that the policemen and the firemen in this country as well.
Carter Clues.
I believe they're treated as second-class citizens, but I think it's the nature of the job and probably is irresolvable.
Isaiah Fletcher.
Richard, I don't think we have enough experience to say that you can apply a part to the whole and say the whole is the same as the part.
We'll talk about the crash of the DC-8 and other subjects in the news tonight as we square off. Wait, before we begin, Elaine was commenting on the music. Do you like the new music?
Yeah.
Have you not been on the set?
Once, but I don't remember. We didn't have music.
We did have the new music.
The second time I've been on.
It's nice to have you back.
Oh, I didn't.
And Elaine will be here
just chit-chatting.
Elaine will be here on a more regular basis now because of certain changes over at Public Broadcasting. Your show will be taped on a different night. Yes. You'll be here. So for all of you who've demanded more of Elaine Stein, we're going to make you sick of her. That's what we're going to do. Let's get serious and talk about the crash of the DC-8. And first, welcome a new panel member, Jim Fox, who is the general manager of B104 Radio, and a very outspoken person in our community. And he's here to talk about other things, and including cigarette advertising. Welcome to Square Off.
Thank you very much for having me. I've watched this show for many years and find it to be the most thought-provoking, interesting show on Baltimore television.
Why did you include, thank you, why did you include policemen and firemen in your opening comment?
Because I feel that anyone in this country that wears a uniform is considered a second-class citizen. For some reason, we don't respect a person in a uniform, whether it be military, policeman, or a fireman. And those people go out every day and lay their life on the line for you, me, everybody on this panel.
You know, if we're going to start talking about second-class citizens, you're going to cloud the issue when you talk about firemen and people in uniforms. We talked about the military, and I don't think we have enough because of the crash. While it was quite a catastrophe, we cannot say that generally servicemen are treated as second-class citizens. First of all, because since the Second World War, they have upgraded the military to the extent that they try to entice people to come in voluntarily, and they have been able to do that because of the conditions. Now, one plane comes down, and granted, it was catastrophic. And yet, at the same time, when you compare those flights that have been made where people have not been hurt, then that number becomes small.
Isaiah, won't you agree, though, excuse me, that since Vietnam, we just look at these people as second-class citizens?
No.
Because of that war?
When you say second-class citizen, first of all, I don't have enough experience. I don't think we have enough experience to say what the military is like inside. We can conjecture in terms of what we read in the paper, but then here again, that's, in my judgment, is clouded, and we need to do a more in-depth study.
I think the image problem is real, but and since Vietnam, in the Vietnam era and the immediate post-era, it was very difficult. I think that part of it's improving. However, as long as the military has to operate in a system of need to know and command performances, those who receive those commands are going to have a second-class status in a democratic society. I don't think there's anything you can do about that.
Can we focus, and wait, focusing, and then you can comment on this, on that DC-8. Apparently it had a lot of maintenance problems. Apparently there were former people who worked on that plane who say it was not airworthy, it shouldn't have been flown. Yet we put 250 guys and women on there to save a lot of money. In fact, the military uses commercial planes to save the government billions of dollars.
But as I said before, do you ever find, I mean, there has not been, maybe in wartime, you have had catastrophes with people who are in the high echelon. But name me one cabinet member, name me one member of the Senate or a president that's been on a plane that the plane has been in this condition. I've read every single thing that's been written about this. I've watched every single interview and have also gone out of my way to investigate the thing thoroughly on my own, just from all the newspapers from all over the country. The point is that the plane had a bad reputation. They even interviewed a former pilot who said that he absolutely left that airline because it was in such shoddy shape. I mean, can you imagine airline pilots waiting until they get on the plane to change their clothes,
Elaine,
and then to sit down when the plane takes off with 5 minutes of preparation?
What you're doing again, you talk about the whole, and then you pinpoint on one example.
I think this is only one example. I don't think we've treated men.
When you say about your research, which is questionable, when you talk about that, and you say that there are no high-level officials who ride on similar planes, well, you did the research. You did the research?
Oh, please don't be so hostile. I did research by reading the New York Times, the Washington Post, and reading all of the things that were available to us to read. In other words, I just didn't come here to... I was also with the Voice of America, and I traveled overseas. And I traveled at that precise time, which was a long time ago, we traveled on military planes. And the military planes were, I'm sure, much more secure than these charters. I mean, so, what is your hostility about? The plane was a second-rate plane, the plane crashed, and the President Reagan does not go on these crappy chartered planes.
I'm not talking about, we're not talking about the President, we are talking about the
I'm talking about the President. He and his family don't go on these crappy chartered planes.
Jim wants to talk, wait a minute, Isaiah, 1 second, because Jim has...
I'd like to defend Elaine. You realize that
you said defend her, what's your point of view?
This particular plane has been in the air since 1969.
All right.
It's had at least 4 separate incidents of problems all over the world. Flown thousands of miles. The pilot refused some inspection of the plane at the last minute, just before it took off and had the crash.
Since 1969, how many accidents had it had? How many persons have been injured?
It had 4 close calls. Isn't that enough? Isn't that enough warning? And how many miles can you put on a 1969 plane before it can't?
This week.
How many miles you put on your car before the car runs down?
This week, we celebrated the 50th year of the DC-5, I think.
DC-3.
DC-3. DC-3-5, what's the number?
Well,
the fact is there was a plane, which was celebrated 50 years. Now, you laugh, but I'm trying to say to you that here is a plane that's been in operation. You had 10,000 of them made. You have 2,000 in circulation now. They're 50 years old. Now, what's your point?
I wouldn't
about
fly
age.
one. I wouldn't fly.
Well, the fact that you wouldn't fly one does, Jim, the fact that you would not fly one does not say it's unsafe. A lot of things you wouldn't do that other people do.
Would you drive a 50-year-old car?
Yes, if it was in good working condition.
But okay, that's the point here. That's the point here. There's a question as to whether the plane was in good working condition.
My objection is, my objection to what Elaine is saying is the fact that she cites one example.
It's not one example.
I think you took one example.
I don't think men and women in the service are treated properly anywhere in the world. What about when they were in Germany? The pay was so poor that these people were actually without money to feed their children in Germany. And it was scandalous, the servicemen that had to live in Germany during the inflation of 2 years ago when the dollar was low and the mark was high.
Carter.
Once again, the problem, all of us agree on the problem. The plane was rickety. It probably should not have been in the air. The way to solve the problem, however, is going to involve a major expenditure of money. That problem and the general problem.
You mean to make flying safer for our servicemen and women?
To make flying safer and to make the role of the military man enhanced is going to require massive billions of dollars expenditures. I don't think the American people are willing to do it.
Do you think
50% of the budget, 50% of the military budget goes into personnel.
One at a time.
The original
All right, those are the choices that have to be made then.
Well, but
Richard's original statement was, do you think the military are treated as second-class citizens? I said, yes, I do.
I said, yes, I do.
And I certainly agree with you that firemen are not, these people put their lives on the line for us all the time. Firemen and policemen.
I wonder what the pay scale is for an astronaut versus a PFC in the Army.
I don't know.
Or a captain.
How are they treated?
A captain or a major.
Are you trying
Are you willing to increase the defense budget to accommodate those raises?
Isaiah.
When you talk about second-class citizens, let's look at the military. First of all, as you have in the private sector, you have a hierarchy. Now, the private is going to be treated different than the lieutenant. The lieutenant will be treated different than the captain and on up the line.
And the PFCs go on these second-class planes?
No, I'm not. There was an officer on that plane, or officers on the plane also, Richard. So you're not talking about just all the PFCs, the non-coms were on the plane and the officers were not. That was not the situation. It was a unit that was there and they had the officers with them, so they died also. Now, what we're talking about in terms of second class, it all depends on where you stand. If you are affluent and you're accustomed to this style of life to be served and people are serving you and taking care of you, then fine. You look at this and say second class. But other persons will say this is first class. It depends on where you're coming from. It's all relative.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the proposal to eliminate cigarette advertising from magazines and newspapers when we continue.
The Maryland State Lottery Pick 3 number for tonight is 507. The Pick 4, 5842.
I came to Rustler for these meaty ribs.
I came for this great steak.
It's Rustler's Great Steak and All-You-Can-Eat Rib Sale. Imagine all-you-can-eat barbecued beef ribs for only $5.99. These tasty, tender, meaty ribs come basted in our tangy sauce. And for just $2.99, try this juicy regular ribeye steak. Both meals include our all-you-can-eat salad bar and all these delicious extras.
Rustler's Great Steak.
An all-you-can-eat rib sale.
A great value for a limited time only.
You can see it in her eyes, the doubts we all go through. We'll see you through those unsure looks just staring back at you.
When you're ready for contact lenses, trust the Pearl team of experts for the right lenses and a comfortable fit.
You'll see it in her eyes, that look you'll always prize. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Lots of time left in this football game.
Hey, how you doing? It's freezing out there.
It's been a year, man, but close the door.
Come on, cup of coffee and warm your body.
Hey, Uncle Dan, whatever happened to that cute little puppy you had last year?
Oh, that cute little puppy's grown up. He stays in the backyard now. Hey, look at that line hold. He's in for the end zone for the touchdown.
Animals need warmth and companionship, too.
No, that's not it. All right, let's talk about this. The American Medical Association calls for a ban on all advertising and promotion of all tobacco products. Physicians say the reason is simple. They can't bear, they exclaim, to watch patients die from diseases that can be prevented. 350,000 people a year die from from smoking-related diseases. And now there's a move underway to eliminate all advertising. It's been eliminated from radio and TV now, from magazines and newspapers. Carter, what do you think?
I think that it should not be eliminated. I don't think the advertising promotion should be eliminated. If cigarettes are going to be allowed, I think cigarettes ought to be banned, period. They're deadly, they kill people, they've been proven to cause disease, they're poison, and I think we've banned other poisons in this country. That ought to be next, and cut out the tobacco subsidies.
What about alcohol?
It's sick. Alcohol can be next for all I care.
Where do you stop? Where do you stop? Toy tanks, lingerie?
I'd stop at Tootsie Roll Pops.
No, Tootsie Roll Pops.
Look, you're talking about
sugar,
poison in the system. We're talking about cigarettes. Alcohol is another matter. I personally think it should be. That's a personal opinion. But on cigarettes, there is overwhelming evidence that they cost the taxpayer billions of dollars a year trying to treat these people who smoke themselves to death or infirmity. I don't think that's fair. And I think we have to put a stop to it. We banned thalidomide. Why not ban tobacco? It kills and maims more.
Excuse me, it brings in more taxes than are going out.
So what? How much is a human life worth?
Richard, when you asked the question about the advertisements, I think we're hitting the, as Carter is saying, we're hitting the wrong problem. Because, first of all, we have to prove that advertising does, in fact, cause the
people to buy cigarettes?
To buy cigarettes. Well, not in terms of buying, well, they talk about youngsters.
Interest.
Well, it stimulates interest, but at the same time, you have a choice whether you're going to buy or whether you're not going to buy. It is not the advertising. It is not the advertising that's killing people. It is the cigarette. It is the tobacco that's killing people. So why not concentrate on the problem, which is people smoking and using tobacco?
The fabulously wealthy tobacco industry.
No one will touch the tobacco industry.
That gets government subsidies, funds millions, countless millions of dollars into political campaigns in order to continue subsidies so they can continue killing Americans. It's the only way to put it.
I think Americans have a right to have a choice. And if somebody wants to smoke a cigarette and they know the dangers inherent with that, they should have the right to do it.
Likewise, we have something
Do Americans have a choice as to whether they can use thalidomide? No. PCB? No. Poisons are poisons. The Pure Food and Drug Act should have outlawed tobacco from the beginning.
Without that choice, they get it right under the counter, and without that choice, if you ban cigarettes, the criminal element in this country are going to start manufacturing cigarettes, selling them on a black market, and make a hell of a lot of money at our expense.
But there's something
right along with the drugs and with all the drugs.
But getting it back to...
It'll become a black market item.
Oh, it will become a black... It's better to be a black market item.
Like cocaine and everything else. You think it should be a black market?
I'd rather have it a black market item, suppressed, and arrest those who distribute them than to have it an open market item that kills and maims Americans. And when you say it's their choice, it would be their choice if they were only harming themselves. But they're not just harming themselves. They're harming the entire economy, the entire country. Well, it does affect others. It's not a victimless or a single victim addiction.
If there is to be a ban on the advertising, you're also going to affect the economy. You're going to affect a lot of lives that really have no direct responsibility for the problem. And that's what I'm saying now. We're talking about, there's something more important in this country than just talking about the tobacco. We're talking about the freedom of speech.
I have no sympathy for tobacco pushers.
They ban advertising in Europe.
I know these people.
They ban advertising in Europe.
I don't have any sympathy for alcohol pushers.
What was the point you want to make? Go ahead.
Well, they ban advertising of tobacco in Europe, of cigarettes, and more people smoke today in Europe than ever before. Banning it is not going to...
I just got back from Europe. I know more people smoke there. There's a lack of awareness there.
I will tell you one problem that disturbs me, as much as I'm on my side of this issue.
Yes.
In the paper today, I saw an ad, and they have this warning that cigarette smoking causes cancer, heart disease, and something with pregnancy, whatever. And on the package itself, it has a warning. It says it's hazardous to your health. It doesn't say it causes all this, and I think that's wrong. I think they got to get their act together. If they say something in advertising, they got to take whatever they say that statement and put it back on the package.
They have 4 different warnings now. They have 4 different.
I don't know how many warnings
one of them
they
is
have,
causes because it does
What about butter? We should outlaw butter because the cholesterol. I mean, it's the American Heart Association. I mean, we live in a free society, but I mean, it's true.
I don't think butter.
She's taking it to an extreme.
I wouldn't take it to an extreme. I wouldn't take it. Do you think it's taking it to an extreme to ban? Let me just.
Yes, and then you can get into religion and everything else.
Thalidomide. Should they ban PCB? Other poisons are banned because this poison is bringing revenue into people's pockets.
All I say
supporting
is,
politicians, they won't ban
Once you start the banning, once you start this ball rolling, where do you stop it?
It's already started.
Where's it started?
Do you have any thalidomide with you? Do you think you can buy thalidomide? Do you think you can buy PCB? There are plenty of articles that you cannot buy, so it's already started.
Excuse me for a second, I'm ignorant. When were these drugs or whatever they are illegal to begin with?
thalidomide was legal in the early 1960s. PCB was legal up until 5 years ago.
Legal?
Heroin was legal in this country till the turn of the century, so it's already started. I say let's continue it in a logical fashion.
I think we're getting away from the major point. I agree with Jim in saying that it's like television. We talk about obscenity and pornography. An individual has a right to choose for himself, herself, whether or not they will do that which is bad for them. We cannot have government always saying, this is what I want you to do, and therefore I want to control you by law.
Well, it's not just bad for them, it's bad for all of us.
You say bunk again because you share a point of view that says the government has to control our lives to a very large extent. And I'm saying that the individual...
I think you got the wrong guy.
The individual...
I think you got the wrong guy.
But when you say bunk...
Stay out as much as possible, but I think when there is a killer drug out there that the government should step in, not to protect the people
alcohol
who
is
smoke
a killer drug.
This is, if I may.
Ban alcohol.
Fine, then it goes all right down the line.
I don't have any problem with banning alcohol.
Gentlemen, this is
in terms of butter, I'd rather have more guns and less butter.
Lives and everything else.
Final 2 minutes.
Elaine, I won't ban sex.
Florida will never do that, right?
I will not ban sex.
No, heavens. Let's talk about this. This is our last show before Christmas. And, of course, the theme of this season is always peace on earth, goodwill toward men and women. Do you think that can ever be achieved?
Nope.
Peace on earth? How do you feel during this holiday season
Impossible.
about that?
It's worse now than ever before.
Richard, I think we have...
The world is in chaos, absolute chaos. Worse than it was last year, the year before. It's just
There's so many different sects and groups in the Middle East running around killing each other from the same religion, but different sects. Once you get them going, you got somebody else going.
Yeah, but then again, Jim, you also have Ireland,
and South Africa,
we got everything. You have all the world, and then you have Square Off, which is a microcosm of the microcosm.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
because you're sort of serious.
We have been friendly this evening, and I think there is a natural, in some instances, animosity or a natural adversarial relationship.
We're not using guns.
Yes, exactly what Jim
do you not think that's healthy on this?
I think it is. I think it is very healthy when reasonable people can sit down, and I wish that nations could do the same thing.
I really resent the fact that you would talk about Ireland and South Africa, and then you would compare that with Square Off. We live in a democracy, unlike South Africa, unlike Ireland,
Elaine,
unlike many of these other countries. I would just like to finish what I'm saying. You always overtalk me, and I'm going to say what I'm going to say now.
Isaiah, 1 second.
And I certainly don't think that you can compare those countries with the fact that I might not agree with you or he might not agree with me. We are not taking out guns and shooting each other because we're not the same religion, because we're not the same color, and we're not of the same mindset. So it's an entirely different thing.
I cannot help it. I cannot help it if you like a sense of humor. That is not my fault.
If I lack a sense of humor, my dear, like Abu Ben Adam, you were at the top of the list. I've never seen
Elaine,
you smile. I've known you for 5 years. I've never seen you smile.
You said I overtalked you. You said I overtalked you, Elaine.
Well, tonight, before Christmas, it's going to be my night to overtalk you.
Your night tonight?
I have seen Carter has smiled on the show. And not
Carter always
Isaiah also smiles. Go ahead. What do you think?
I think that
when you say something funny, Elaine, I will smile.
Peace on earth or goodwill toward men, as long as Isaiah and Elaine are at the same table. Now, as long as the Soviet Union is making war upon its own people and every nation around it, 1/3 of the Afghan nation has been forced to flee its own borders. That doesn't result in peace.
But Isaiah and Elaine will not go out from here, go out of here tonight and shoot each other or hit each other, but others will. There's people out there tonight who are killing, raping, maiming, robbing, stealing, whatever it is, and that's the problem. And if you solve all the problems in the world, you got to come back to the United States, and that's where we keep on going on.
In this country, we have a war going on also. We have an ethnic war going on. We have a color war going on. We don't use bullets, but it is just as vicious. It is just as vicious because it does affect the lives of people. You don't kill people only physically, you kill them psychologically. And in this country, there are people who've been killed psychologically.
When we come back, we'll dip into our mailbag. We got hundreds of letters last week. We'll read some of them in just a moment.
Happy holidays, Mr. Scrooge.
Humbug. Look at my food bill.
You should have shopped Basics and More. We saved up to 30% on our holiday food bill at Basics and More.
30%?
On sugar, flour, nuts, all Mrs. Cratchit needs for holiday baking. We saved on deli trays for our holiday party, too.
I could have saved up to 30% at Basics and More.
Money isn't everything, sir.
It isn't?
I was a stranger in town. Logic told me I could find my kind of program at a computer dating service. Problem was, they made me feel, well, computerized. Then something wonderful and unexpected happened.
I found out about Together, the nation's largest introduction service that brings single people together the personal way. Want to meet great, real people with interests like yours? Call Together today.
Together has offices in Timonium, Columbia, Glen Burnie, Greenbelt, and Rockville. Call today for an appointment.
You can slice it. You can toss it. You can grill it or steam it. You can baste it or stir it. You can roast it. You can fry it or bake it. But your food will never taste its best until you sprinkle it with accent.
In reference to our show 2 weeks ago on gun control, here's a letter from Elise Weems of Baltimore, who writes, doesn't Reverend Cross practice what he preaches on faith? Doesn't he believe that God will take care of him, or is he becoming a pistol-packing preacher? Here's a letter from 11-year-old Evan Serpic of Baltimore, who says, the show on handgun control was very interesting. I think that handguns should be outlawed and the laws should be much tougher. In reference to our teenage square-off last week, B.J. Carter of Henderson, Maryland writes, I found Hassan Murphy's repeated suggestions for separate but equal educational facilities for students with AIDS totally amusing. It's been done. And Jeanette Victor of Snow Hill, Maryland writes, oh, how I wish the young folks were on every Saturday night. Your program is great, but it's the young folk who make my evening. How do you feel about that? Write to this address, Square Off, WJZ-TV, Television Hill, Baltimore, Maryland, 21211. We all wish you a very Merry Christmas from Square Off. Next Saturday night at 7:30, we review the news events of 1985. Stay tuned now for the Lotto. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye, everybody.
Tonight's Lotto game will begin by releasing the balls numbered 01 to 40. Lottery official Jim Cadden will start mixing the balls. And now, Channel 13 presents tonight's Maryland Lotto game. The estimated annuity value of this week's jackpot is $2.4 million. Karen Stewart is tonight's Lotto game witness. And now, the first Lotto number is drawn. And the first number that comes up is 39. Now the second number is drawn. The second number is 29. Now the third number is drawn. Third number 09. Now the fourth number is drawn. Fourth number is 16. Now the fifth number is drawn.